It's nice to see pretty much the entire registered audience still staying back at 6:38 in the evening. That speaks immensely to the effectiveness of this day's program, I suppose. So my job is to try and summarize, and I'm not sure how I'm really going to be able to do that. But before that, I just want to once again, this has been one of the most exciting, meaningful, and truly delightful days that I have spent in a program that I can remember. And I think the credit goes to the organizers. Please join me in giving an absolutely rip-roaring applause. TiE Bangalore, great job. Well, you know, I don't know how many of you had a chance to go through the Ernst & Young report that was left on your seat. I mean, by mistake, if you sat on it, just make sure that you take it out and get a chance to read it. Now, it talks about 6 megatrends. It talks about the digital future, and I'm not sure it's the digital future. It's the digital now, isn't it? And especially if you listen to Nandan in the morning, I don't think you would have any doubts at all. It's the digital now, 900 million phones. By 2016, we are going to have the second largest number of smartphones in the world, and so on and so forth. So it's really the digital now. But essentially, the digital future, what they have talked about is the fact that technology is going to impact just about every walk of life. Rising entrepreneurship, here is the evidence of it, and the middle of your palms are evidence of the fact that entrepreneurship is rising and rising enormously well. Mohan spoke about it today, right? The sheer excitement and euphoria and exuberance of entrepreneurship, particularly from Bangalore. You know, Bangalore has got many firsts. I don't know how many of you even remember some of those. In 1985, it was the first international global tech giant set up a development center in Bangalore. Do you remember the name? Texas Instruments. In 1988, India's first venture capital firm set roots in Bangalore. Does anybody remember the name? Do you remember the expansion? See, come again? And Information Company of India, not bad. So I knew I had to catch you on something. I did my homework yesterday, so I had to catch you on something. But Bangalore has got many firsts, and the excitement of entrepreneurs is absolutely delightful here. And I think rising entrepreneurship is exemplified by Bangalore, many of the areas besides Koramangala as well. Tarun, I just wanted to highlight that. Global marketplace, I think the world is an oyster, and the oyster is a marketplace, the name of a mall. Then the global marketplace is here, right? It's the Oyster Mall, and it's here and here, it's available now. Urban world, that's a mega trend, right? Urbanization, and my friend Madan actually runs a company which works on the thesis that people in the rural areas have urban desires. He's even coined a name called Ruben, and a field of study hopefully called Rubenomics. So the entire aspect of urbanization and urban aspiration driving every youngster's life is right now and here, and it's going to only increase. So that could mean consumerism, and that could go out of control, Team 3 dystopian. So it could happen, but it could well be something that can transform India. I think and Nandan said this again in the morning, the basis of transformation of people has to be a very strong economic, foundation. If that's not there, we can all keep talking about it, nothing is really going to happen. So clearly the global marketplace is good, the urban world is good. And the fifth one is a resourceful planet. And this is an interesting, and I urge you to go and read the perspective that Ernst & Young has given as far as this megatrend is concerned. I think looking at the planet as a planet that has got resources far more than what we have been grabbing out of it, I think is going to change our perspective. And finally, health reimagined. These are the 6 megatrends that Ernst & Young has talked about. I would add one, I'm not sure a megatrend, but an important piece to it. I think in India, especially people of my generation, we have been brought up by thinking of scarcity. We have been people who have been driven, our imagination has been driven by waiting for a telephone connection for 12 years or a Bajaj scooter for 7 years or whatever. I think you, entrepreneurs of today, youngsters of today, you live in the world of plenty. There is no dearth and scarcity of imagination. There is no scarcity of opportunity. There is indeed, even, if the venture capitalists in this room are going to smile, I'll go ahead and say there is no scarcity of money. And therefore, it's only up to us to actually go out and do it. And, to be able to do that, I'm going back to I'm going to just summarize a few nuggets that I got out of it, and I'm sure that you would have all got many more out of this. Nandan talked about creating a mental model for the future, and I thought that is a very sound statement which can be an underlying mantra for entrepreneurs. Create the mental model of your future. And interestingly enough, Mohan said that there is more money that is being invested every year in startups than the money that is being raised out of IPOs. And it's actually a significantly greater number. Clearly, the opportunity is with entrepreneurs. There is a WhatsApp moment in finance. I think that's something that I think we all recognize, and money stays digital. I think that's another interesting phrase that I picked up. And I was just thinking about it, and it struck me, why is it more easy for a finance industry to make the transformation than perhaps healthcare? Money itself is an abstract concept. So an abstract concept moves to something digital, perhaps that's more easily handled than, something that, David Lawrence was very thoughtful about, the stuff that you should do, and he separated medical care and healthcare. And I was just thinking about it, and perhaps it's a lot more difficult to do it in several other areas because of that. It's just a conjecture from my mind. Paperless, cashless, presence-less, that would give opportunities that will certainly not be senseless. So, it's up to you to grab it and run with it. Bank Bazaar, bina compare kiye, this is a phrase that's now become a part of a lexicon, right? Bina compare kiye. And that, I think, is again another example of what the digital future is all about. And Adil's phrase on the disappearance of the wet signature, I like that. I'd heard it for the first time. And the disappearance of the wet signature, it's the Aadhaar, identity, it's the biometrics. It's a different world. Think about it. Even when you sign today for somebody, even today, when you sign for somebody who delivers an Flipkart or an Amazon package, you sign it not using a wet ink, but by using a stylus. So disappearance of the wet signature is a very interesting thing. And Vijay Shekhar Sharma spoke about, that's another very strong mantra, I think, for entrepreneurs here. The game has to be mobile, not the strategy. And I think that's a very powerful statement again. That's the game. One of the companies that I've had the opportunity to angel fund, called Entlogics, has actually built a school ERP which entirely looks at, it's cloud first, mobile first. Everything is cloud first, mobile first. And in fact, they built a web version only recently because there was a demand from one of the schools to actually do so. They didn't need to. So it is possible today on something which is as prosaic as the kind of stuff that we'll talk about on back-end transactions to actually completely become mobile, not just the retail purchases and the few other examples that we talked today. Many other things are happening. And the LeapFrog of the petrol pump, I thought that was an absolutely brilliant example. There is stuff that's happening out there. Absorption, acceptance, and internalization of these megatrends is happening today in the marketplace. Consumers are actually doing it. The petrol pump is only one example. There is a lot more than that that's happening out there. So that means opportunity. That means entrepreneurs embrace the megatrends, create your own ideas, and there is potential success that's out there. Now, Diego said something which, many things, actually, it was a very thoughtful session. There's one thing that stuck to my mind, was focus on growing fast by focusing on the customer. Focus on growing fast by focusing on the customer. Personally, I have always subscribed to the philosophy of growing fast. And focusing on growing fast by focusing on the customer is something that stayed. And he talked about, don't really look at online versus offline, but focus on the consumer experience. And it's interesting to see Sachin reflect exactly, same thing. He talked about human experience, but really it's the same thing that got reflected by two of the mega players who have taken advantage of the e-commerce mega trend. It was also interesting to hear from Diego that the focus has to be on creating a profitable ecosystem. And I'm not sure that the word profitable would really come in these e-commerce stuff, but Diego actually said it. Create a profitable ecosystem, and that would have made the VCs here happy. Please remember to create profitable stuff. David Lawrence's session was absolutely wonderful, and he talked about, of course, as I mentioned, separated out medical care and healthcare, build in front of the medical care system. That was very interesting. And the diverse opportunities that he talked about in terms of quality, reliability, predictability, scalability, affordability, and access reflects many efforts that are happening out here. I don't know how many of you are on on the healthcare innovation side? Anybody here? Not too many. I think that's an area that you perhaps could look at and look at very hard. In the healthcare panel, there are a couple of ideas that came out that I noted down, and what I realized was, where do you balance between convenience and trust? The same thing came up in the financial services panel as well, in convenience and trust. And tech will support changing of lifestyle is a lot more difficult. So if you move towards that side, and medical care become even more effective, and I think that's the same thing that is coming out again and again. And Tom exhorted something which I noted down. He didn't use these words, but I'm using the word. He says, remember the context. While in one sense, Tom also in his session said that perhaps we are becoming biologically similar to each other, cultural differences are still going to persist. Economic differences are still going to persist for a long time to come. So the understanding of the context, not just importing models that have worked in the West, I think is going to be super critical, and I think that's something that I took out again. And David also talked about, it's a very difficult thing to justify making money out of the sickness of people. So I wrote a statement, said, therefore make money through the wellness of people. And I think that's a great opportunity that's out there for all of us. Doreen's session, of course, was absolutely the other side of the whole thing. We were really looking at numbers and money, and Nandan talked about billions of dollars, and Vijay Shekhar Sharma said about 500 million people have to have Paytm, and she actually turned around and said, listen, there is the other side of it that you should not forget, right? She did make a statement which I absolutely relate to. She said, failure is a learning process, and of course that makes me a student for life. That's something that I noted. And she also said that if you understand the people around you, you will make better decisions, and therefore the chances of the success, the probability of the success of your company is significantly greater. It's not only the model, it's not only the money, but it's the men, the people around you, and understanding of them that's going to be crucial. And I talked about Sachin Bansal's session, constant change. He talked about the megatrend of bringing fast and continuous change. Bhavish talked about execution. I think he really, and I liked his big, very simple words, but very big goal. We want to serve everyone, right? It's very simple. 4 or 5 words, and he just kind of concluded that kind of big thinking. I think is going to be fantastic. We had and Bhavish also talked about technology is going to change every aspect of any consumption-driven vertical. And the other thing that he mentioned, talked about, is something that I hold very dear. Is always be curious. I think curiosity opens up doors. Curiosity opens up your minds. I think being continuously curious is a great advice to have. And then we had Xenia's session, XPrize, and the wonderful ideas and thoughts that came from all the 3 teams. So one round of applause for the wonderful imagination of the 3 people. Now I'm going to conclude by telling you a small story and asking you a small quiz. Is that okay? Right? Okay, this is simple, nothing very complicated, very simple one. There is this stream of water that's flowing, right? It's a small stream. It's not even a river, it's a small stream. Just water is flowing. And there is a log that's floating on it, right? It's a log of wood that's floating on it. The stream is deep enough for the log of wood to float. It's a round log of wood, it's floating. And there are 3 frogs sitting on the log, all right? There are 3 frogs sitting on the log. One of the frogs decides to jump. One of the frogs decides to jump. The question for you is very simple. How many frogs are left on the log? 0. Any other answers? 3. Okay. Nobody wants to be in the 2 side, no? 2. Okay, somebody here. Okay, so 2. Anybody? Any other answer? 7 maybe? No? Okay, the answer is 3, because deciding is not necessarily equal to doing. So at the end of the day today, if there is a nice, interesting idea that has come up and you decide to be an entrepreneur, don't stop there. Just go ahead and do it. Thank you.